go ahead and get us kicked off.
Awesome.
All
Let's go.
right. So we'll do some quick intros and then we can dive into why we're here. I'll go first. So my name's Molly Wheaton. I'm a co-founder at Earn Better. We're a company that uses AI to help people in the job search. So if you're on the job search, we have a bunch of free tools at earnbetter.com. Feel free to check them out. Before Earn Better, I spent about 10 years at various tech companies across a bunch of different functions. I'm based in Austin, Texas. Would love to know where y'all are tuning in from, so feel free to comment with your location. And yes, I'm very excited to be here today with Lori Golden from Rebel HR. Lori, do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, quick intro. I'm Lori Golden. I've been in the recruiting and talent acquisition space, mostly around disruptive tech startups for over 25 years. Over the last year and a half, I've gotten really involved in being out publicly talking about the job search and helping people navigate it in a better way because it's challenging. I am sitting in just the outskirts of Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a New Yorker in the desert. Please save me.
Thank you so much for being here, Lori. We really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know Lori, she's awesome. She always has some great hot takes, so follow her on LinkedIn if you're not already. Yeah, so why are we here? Lori and I've known each other for a while, and we recently did a LinkedIn event about AI in the job search, and it was really fun and productive. So we got to chatting and wanted to do a series together that could help job seekers. So this is our very first episode of Higher Up. Welcome. Thank you for being here. On each episode, we'll plan on addressing a common question we get from job seekers, debunking a myth in the job search or hiring process, and then highlighting an awesome company that is currently hiring. If you have any feedback for us after this event, please give it to us. Very much open to that. And then, of course, at the end, we'll open it up to Q&A from the audience. We're going to try to stay present in the conversation, but also review questions and comments. If we don't get to yours until the end, don't worry. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. And if for some reason we don't get to yours and we run out of time, feel free to follow up with us and we can try to address those one-on-one. All right. Anything you'd add before we get started?
Yeah, we can dive right in.
Okay. So the first one is FAQ that we get from job seekers. And we get this one from users that Earn Better all the time, or some version of this. I've been out of work for a while. What's the best way to address a gap on my resume and or in an interview? Lori, do you want to go first or you want me to kick it off?
I'm happy to jump in. So I'm going to start with like the more theoretical, and then Molly, you can throw in some tactical stuff. But theoretically, no matter what the cause or the reason for the gap, whether you took time off to take care of an aging parent or a family member, whether you were laid off in a very tight job market like this and have had extended unemployment, or whether you decided to take a year off and sail around the world. I know somebody who did that. Regardless of what the reason is, how your gap will be received, especially in an interview, will have more to do with how you feel about your gap than how they do. Try to stay with me here, okay? So if you own your gap, like I personally was laid off like a year and a half ago, and I've done a lot of interesting things since. None of them were like a W-2 employment job. I've just been picking up things, contract consulting, whatever, doing some talent tech advisory, lots of different things, podcasts, whatever. So I don't feel bad about the time I've been out, right? And I like to show up and talk about what I've learned and what I've been doing and the new things that this time has afforded me the opportunity. It may sound a little bit on the privilege side, but I promise you it's not about and or rooted in privilege. I mean, there have been times I had trouble paying bills. So it's not about an issue of privilege. It's an issue of how you self ownership, self accountability wise, own your circumstances. If you feel defeated and you show up defeated, you're going to be received as defeated. if you own the time that you've been off and you are excited about the things that you've been doing and the volunteer work you've been doing, or the pro bono thing that you did over here, or the class you took over here, that's what you need to be talking about. I would always approach talking about gaps as positives, as opportunities for growth, as opportunities. It's about crafting your story, and it starts with owning it. So I talk a lot out here on this platform about mindset shift, and mindset being the core and primary of how you show up and talk about your unique value proposition. Well, your gap is part of your story, so own it proudly, and speak to it. Okay. If you haven't had any positive learning opportunity or experience in your time off, take some. I mean, there are free courses everywhere. There are webinars and podcasts and free content galore. If anything, there's too much of it. But like there's opportunities to be doing things, right? I reached out to a lot of tech companies that were building in the recruiting space and said, "Hey, I'll offer free advisory service because I want to keep my brain from atrophying. I want to continue to grow in this space and time that I have. I'm in transition. I'm in a pivot, but I'm owning it." And that's the difference between how one person shows up one way talking about their gap and another person shows up differently, but maybe the cause of the gap is exactly the same, right? So
Yeah.
it's about owning that. So now tactically, Molly can talk a little bit about what that looks like on your resume, what that looks like, in actual practice in an interview.
But really well said, Lori. And a lot of that ties in with some of the more tactical advice. And we did not chat about this beforehand. But I would say on a resume, we get questions about if you should extrapolate on your gaps. If it's been a short amount of time, I don't think you need to address it on your resume. I've heard of some people adding in parentheses details like reduction in force or company layoff. I probably wouldn't do that, but that's a personal choice. I don't see a lot of harm in that approach, especially in today's markets. Like recruiters are aware of the turbulence. Almost everyone's been impacted in one way or another. So having a small gap, I don't think you need to necessarily explain it on your resume, but if you want to, feel free. If it's been a while or there's a large gap, it might make sense to add an explanation on your resume to provide some color on what you've been doing. So like if you were taking care of your children or a loved one, taking classes or upskilling so you could pivot to a new industry or position, whatever it might be. If it's a longer gap, that might make more sense. And then tactically on the interview front, kind of very similar to what Lori was saying, I would try to highlight what you were doing during your gap that can be seen as productive. It could be volunteering. It could be taking a class to get a new certification, learning new skills on your own, whatever that might be. So you can think about it like if you were a caregiver, you were likely doing a lot of project management and coordination on a daily basis.
Yes.
You could have built up soft skills like empathy, patience, active listening. If you were taking classes to become a Salesforce administrator, to keep yourself up to date on that tool, those are specific examples of how you could incorporate that into an interview. But I think overall, just trying to present your gap in a positive way by showcasing what you learned or what you did during that period of time, even though you weren't officially employed. And to Lori's point, being passionate, excited, and just like owning it, I think your mindset and how you come off in that conversation is what will change the game.
And there's some hacks. I mean, let's be honest, like there are a lot of ways to fill in the gap, if you will. Like I have 3 different things on my resume slash LinkedIn profile. You can go look at it. That I don't get paid for actively, like a paycheck, but they're still on there, like, because they're real work. The talent tech advisory, ask Molly. I get on the call with people like Molly regularly, and I give them feedback on their product. I talk about how their go to market messaging is received. I like that's work, and it's valuable work. And just because I don't get a paycheck for that work doesn't mean it shouldn't be represented. I'm proud of it. I'm learning, I'm contributing, and I'm productive. It makes me better. Like it, again, it's all around how you shift it. Um, Draft board. I volunteered to do some work for them and try to evangelize the platform because I believe in what they're doing. I really like their model, and I think it's a model that we'll see more of in the future. I'm not getting a paycheck, but it's on there on my LinkedIn profile as an advisory role because that's what I'm doing. I'm on their Slack and I'm giving them, so people put their nose up and poo poo pro bono or volunteer work, and I think it's the best way to legitimately and with integrity fill those gaps because like again, if recruiters are doing searches on LinkedIn and as part of their search, they're eliminating anybody who doesn't have a current employer listed, you won't show up in that search. I'm not saying recruiters should do that. I'm just saying if they do that, right? This is one way to combat that. So it's a hack, right? You're not lying. You're not saying it was a job. There are actually choices in LinkedIn when you add a job. You don't have to add it as regular employment, full-time employment. You can add it as contract or consulting or freelance or advisory or whatever, or pro bono volunteer. The point is, it's about owning the time that you don't have to show up somewhere 8 to 5 every day. And what besides job search are you doing in that time? Because there's definitely more than just job search. Now, if you're job searching 40 hours a week, every week, please stop. There is a law of diminishing returns on that. You're doing it too much. Like that's a lot. Okay. You have to also do other things to keep yourself fresh and from feeling defeated, because the feeling of defeat will impact you more than the gap.
Yeah. Great points, Lori. I'm going to move us to the next topic just for the sake of time.
Let's do it.
Next topic is also a very popular one, and we get asked about it a lot, and it is kind of convoluted. So I think it's good to kind of differentiate. But we're going to be talking about rejection emails. So we get a lot of questions about automated rejection emails from the ATS, and why is the ATS rejecting me? So we wanted to kind of differentiate between the various rejections. So Lori, do you want to kick us off and then I'll jump in?
Yeah. Let's start with just this. Let's start with just the fact that the ATS is not actually rejecting you. Like the ATS does not have any kind of decision making ability. While there may be some sort of AI, and I say that loosely, built in, it's normally actually automations versus actual generative AI within the ATS. And I'll talk about what that means. So when you say, and we see this all the time, I applied and 30 seconds later, I got a rejection email. There's no way a person reviewed my resume. You're right. If you get rejected 30 seconds later, it's more than likely what we call knockout questions. So when we build the application process in the ATS system that then gets posted for you to apply, part of that are these new questions, right? A lot of people, there's always these questions. How many years of experience do you have in HR management? And you have to put a number in there. Where are you located? Do you live in Chicago? Are you on Eastern Standard Time? Whatever the questions are, they're usually very objective questions, and how you answer them determines what happens next. If we know that we have 4 or 5 minimum qualifications that we absolutely, due to OFCCP regulations, et cetera, cannot interview anybody who does not meet those 5 requirements, that's a great use of knockout questions, because why should I waste your time or ours talking about a role that we cannot hire you for? So that's why you get those very fast reactions. Now, I'm going to put it back to Molly to talk a little bit about the human element of how reviewing applications goes and still getting an auto email of some sort.
Yeah. Great points, Lori. It's not the ATS scanning your resume and making a decision on you as a candidate when it comes to knockout questions.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's true. But for knockout questions, it's simply working off the logic built into those questions. If you answer yes, you can be considered. If you answer no, you can't. And it's not always yes or no, but that sort of logic. But once a candidate makes it through the knockout questions, it is a recruiter reviewing resumes and making the decision, not the ATS. And now every recruiter operates a little differently and can take a different approach on how they review and qualify candidates. But in most cases, they're reviewing profiles and resumes and, marking people who are good fits for the role or are not good fits for the role. And there's all sorts of different status designations and shortlisting and whatnot. But as a recruiter marks people, it's usually, the status is usually rejected, which just feels so negative, and I hate saying it, but that's just typically what it is. So a recruiter may disposition a bunch of candidates at once. So they might be reviewing resumes for an hour at a time, and they disposition a lot of candidates to the rejected state. Disposition just means that they update their status. And they can decide, do those candidates get an email immediately? Do they get the email in 6 hours? Do they get it the next day? Regardless, the email that you're going to get, it's probably going to feel automated. It's a kind of generalized rejection email, but it's not the ATS saying you're not qualified. A recruiter made that decision. They usually it's usually a pretty general template for the rejection emails. So it might feel like it was automated, but it actually came from a human making a decision.
Right.
Although there is this third bucket, Lori, if you want to talk about it, the emails with
Not
that.
Yeah. So I just want to talk a little bit about the word choices in the emails too. Okay. So I see a lot of scrutiny. So there's this huge camp of people who's like, I get no response. I'm ghosted. It's horrible. I just want to know something. I get it. I agree. I think everybody should hear something. There should be closure. But now there's like this whole new camp of folks who are like picking apart the words utilized in the auto reject email. I just want to frame this real quick, and then we can talk a little bit about the ones that don't get reviewed at all. This is a newer message going out lately, but we have to design those templates for the masses. I mean, like thousands and thousands of people over the period of time of hiring. Remember, each recruiter may be recruiting for 20 plus roles and have 5 to 6 to 7 different hiring managers that they're responsible for. And each of those roles gets hundreds, if not over 1,000, depending on the type of role it is, candidates and applicants to it. So we design these templates to be, I mean, they actually sound very impersonal by design. It's not personal. It's not for you, John, or you, Kim, or you, like it's for anyone and everyone, right? So never take, I see a lot of responses and reactions on LinkedIn like, this was so cold, or this was so impersonal, or this was lacked any kind of empathy. But then when it says like, unfortunately, like we're sad to say we didn't, then we hear it's patronizing and it's insulting. So it's like, I want you guys to really understand that if you're focusing on the words used in the rejection email, you're definitely wasting your limited energy reserves and resources on something that makes no difference to your job search at all. The point is you got closure, they said no for whatever reason, and that's it. Like you can feel bad about it, but you probably shouldn't, right? Because again, they're not saying no you, Molly. They're saying, we found somebody else. You may be awesome and we found somebody slightly more awesome. That's it. Right? They're not saying
Mm-hmm.
you're not awesome. Okay? So I just want to like help people level set their expectations with that. Now there's a new message that I've seen a lot of commentary this last few weeks about, where you get a message that says, hey, we received such a huge uptick in volume on this role. Thank you so much for your interest in applying, but we didn't get to even review your application, and we had to close down the role and we hired somebody. And people are infuriated by this response. And I thought, wow, how refreshing that level of transparency and honesty. And I would choose to work for that company because transparency for the win always, in my mind, right? I get, again, that you can feel like you wasted time and that you could feel badly about it. But really, what they're telling you is you can apply again because we haven't even looked at your resume. We didn't reject you based on the merit of your background. We just didn't get to you.
Yeah.
So I would say that's a positive message. And again, reframing how you perceive some of this stuff can help reduce some of the frustration that is experienced. It's a hard job market. So, like, choose your frustrations. You know, the choose your battles statement,
Hmm.
choose your frustrations wisely. There's plenty of real stuff to be frustrated about without adding things that are not really personal issues to be frustrated about. And they really don't impact you that much. So, if I can help with that, I think that's great. I know for me that if I focused on all of these things that were wrong and broken and the processes I didn't like and la la la, I would definitely spiral downward. It would be a very bad thing for me. It was really on me to refocus my energy when I get frustrated to the things I have control over and
Hmm.
putting my focus on those things, like recreating the story of my gap or doing some pro bono work so that I have something to fill in the gap.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good context. And even though it's not the update you want, at least it's an update. You have some sort of clarity on that because there's hundreds of roles that aren't providing updates, but the same thing happened. And, but you're still kind of in, la la land because you don't know where you stand. Are they still
Right.
reviewing applications or not?
Right.
So, yeah, it's kind of like control what you can control and move on. And nobody handles rejection well. It's hard not to take personally, but that's, at least you have some clarity on that role.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
practice. It's a practice not taking things personally. I
yeah,
highly recommend the book Four Agreements. It's like, don't take things personally that, like, because why? You really have the choice. So,
yeah, especially in today's market. Um,
absolutely. It's a lot going on out here. It's a challenge. There's a lot of noise too, right?
yeah, for sure. I'm looking through comments just to make sure we don't have any questions before we go on to the company highlights. Um, yeah, someone talking about fear mongering on LinkedIn. You hate to see that. Um,
Anywhere.
right?
We're like a society built on it right now. We have a whole election built on it right now. Let me stop. Let me not make this political.
I think this was when we were talking about how to frame your gap. And they said, can we say it's not what you say, but it's how you say it? And I think that's a good
I think
point.
that I think that goes for a lot of stuff, right?
Hmm.
Like, yeah, it really is that what it's even more than how you say it. It's what you actually believe about what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And I know that that's really hard for people to like wrap their head around, but like that's why when I coach people on their unique value proposition, it's like you have to believe what you're saying. It has to resonate and you say it with a confidence, right?
Hmm.
That's what's attractive to employers.
And what comes across in a conversation,
Yeah.
it's like
Like
palpable.
people are afraid to talk about their weaknesses in interviews. I love to talk about my weaknesses because if I speak confidently and passionately about my weaknesses, I'm more believable about my strengths. Don't
Hmm.
ask me to do Excel spreadsheets. I'm terrible. I suck. But I'm really awesome at this.
Yeah.
I know myself. Self awareness. When we talk about the soft skills that employers are looking for, I don't know that they define those very well, but I can tell you what they are. They're self awareness, knowing who you are and what you have to offer and like how
Hmm.
is so helpful. That's a great employee. When
Yeah.
you if you show up on LinkedIn and you're frustrated by the rejection email that you got and the word choices used, you're very much displaying yourself as when I don't get things the way I want them, I'm irate about it. I've worked with people like that.
Yeah.
It's
Which is,
hard.
yeah, exactly. Not necessarily ideal.
Yeah. So think about that. All of that plays into how you're presenting yourself publicly. But we have an employer to highlight. That's the exciting part.
Yeah, we'll get onto that. So let me present my screen. Present. Alrighty. You see that?
Yes. Everyone
Okay.
see that? Cool. Good. So we are highlighting every week. We're going to highlight an employer that is hiring in the, in the white collar realm, if you will, the types of roles that Earn Better specifically focuses on. So today we're going to talk about 1220. We're highlighting them. They're a growing ed tech company. If they focus on the technology, job search, and job posting technology in the university and campus realm. So if you've ever logged into a platform like Handshake, where you post jobs or where you apply for jobs because you're alum or because you're graduating, it's technology like that. Now they are hiring. They have several open roles. They're mostly sales and customer success roles. But what they're looking, I'm highlighting them because this is a built-in transition and pivot opportunity, meaning they've built a really strong training program to take people from the career services and career development sector of the university and college worlds and train them to be successful account executives selling the technology into the universities and being a customer success professional supporting customers once they've transitioned to 1220. So what's exciting about that, one, these are fully remote roles. So most of you who have worked in the campus, career services on campus, those are definitely not remote roles. They are on campus, in-person roles. So that's one thing that's really exciting about these positions. And again, if you fit that criteria, you've been in the career services world within college, university, they can transition you into these exciting roles. So it's great. So now, like the name of the game in 2024 is adapting. It's adapting to, having more skills under your belt, having more experiences to diversify your career portfolio. This is an exciting opportunity for that. So if you fit this or people in your network, these roles won't always be right for you, but think about who that might be right for. If you went to school and you graduated and you had a career services person that you connected with to help you or that you go back to every now and again, maybe mention this to them. It's a great opportunity. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any interest.
All right. Good stuff. Yeah. And always good, like if you know somebody that would be a good fit, even if it's not you. That's why networking is beautiful and it's
Heck
a
yeah.
two-way street because you go and help somebody and then down the line they help you. So good call out on that, Lori.
Absolutely. Networking is all about showing up for people before you need something from them.
Yeah. I also dropped a link to the 1220 careers page in the comments. So if anybody wants to go check them out, you can access them at that link. But
Very
yeah,
good.
this was our first episode. So you guys reach out if you have any feedback, if there's
Please.
any comments, questions, things you want to see less of, more of, any topics you would like to see covered or questions. We are open to any and all feedback, but thank you for joining us and we will see y'all on the next one.
Bye.
Okay.